Do you see it?
It says it's recording. I just don't
Okay.
know how to retrieve it later, but that's all right. We'll figure it out.
Okay.
Vicky, do I have a camera here? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's get started then. I'm sorry, like I say, we best laid plans. I thought we would try it out, and Michelle got us on, and a couple of us were on, and then she left, and we got all knocked off. So I apologize. You know, this has been a tough meeting to get started. I thought we'd have it outside, be able to see everybody. Then I pictured us all in some kind of blizzard by the time the meeting was over, so we didn't. So let's get moving so I don't keep you people forever here. First of all, we'd like to welcome MJ. Can you hear us?
I can hear you, and I'm on someone else's computer tonight, and she does not have a video camera, and that's why you can't.
Okay, well, we will picture you in the best light.
Yes, at a size 10.
Okay, so I'll tell you who's here. Edie Twining, myself, David Rubino.
Hi, David. I've never met you. Hi, Kate.
Joe Camean.
Hi, Joe.
Kate Hewitt is here from the paper, from the Connecticut Examiner. So,
Okay.
MJ, why don't you just introduce yourself, tell us a little about yourself and your interest in the EDC is, if you wouldn't mind.
I've been in Old Lyme for 16 years. I've always had community interest. I'm very active in the Elephant Party. But that aside, I've spent my entire career in sales and corporate finance, and I'm currently a realtor with William Pitt Sotheby's. So I think I have all of the skill sets and the tools to make a contribution here. If I've read your mission statement correctly and understood all the plans and surveys and inputs, I think that I probably am well suited to give you a hand in every way I can.
Great, appreciate it. Well,
okay.
You're very welcome. And later we'll give you a test to make sure you read everything. But in the meantime, great, we appreciate it.
All right.
Joining. First thing I wanted to do is just, has anyone ever had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting? There is one change. John let me know that he was there and that was not recorded. So I will make that correction. Any other changes on the minutes? If not, can someone please make a motion accept?
I move to accept the minutes.
Edie,
seconded.
David, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Very good. Minutes are passed. Old business. We did, I thank everybody for participating in getting the annual report, final draft ready, and I did send it in. Everybody, we had two options, and everybody voted for, well, there were 7 votes for option 1. One person did not vote, no votes against that. And so that was delivered. The events article, as you know, that was published a little while ago in the events magazine. As I said, a couple of mistakes in there. They called us a committee rather than a commission. We had put some links to how to reach us, and people didn't do that. And that proved out to be true because I've checked to see if we've received any feedback. Typically we do on these things, and we have not. So apparently that did not happen. We do have I just got to note that the next event due date for the next quarter's event is November 6th. And we should think about, let's go back to that later and see where we are at the end of this meeting, if we have anything of substance to update from our last events report, and then we could decide that, if that's all right. I wanted to talk about the plans to distribute the advanced CT reports. And as you know, if you look at the minutes from the last meeting, we were recommending that the that we go to the Board of Selectmen, do a presentation, that they consider having a meeting of all of the boards and commissions to see how they can utilize those reports. I sent a couple of emails to Tim and did not receive an answer. So I then recently just sent a more formal email note, which if anyone wants to see it, I can send it. But I urged him for us to make that presentation. I pointed out that the town had spent considerable sum of money, and people had committed a lot of time in answering the business and resident survey and attending SWAT meetings, and people should derive a benefit from it and be able to see some results. And we thought it was very important that the board give us that opportunity. So we'll wait to hear.
So that formal communication, will that be part of communication that's read out in the Board of Selectmen's meeting?
I'm sorry, what you just repeat?
I'm wondering if we can track receipt of that, of your letter by understanding
I'll
if
check with
it's.
Michelle. Michelle is good at, I'll find it. If not, I'll call Tim and find out what's going on. If I don't hear this week. I was waiting to see, maybe they brought it up. I don't know, did anyone attend the Board of Selectmen meeting? Did anyone know if that was?
I did attend it, and although our report was referenced in several of the presentations, so our report is definitely getting some traction. Your letter was not referenced specifically.
Okay.
Open space as well as affordable housing both gave reports, and they referenced our report. So good work, guys.
Okay, good. All right, well, I will follow up with Tim. I'll give him if I don't hear this week, I'll give him a call and find out what's going on. So that's where that stands. I just wanted to tell you about a number of kind of outreach efforts we've made. The first is that one I just described, the Board of Selectmen. Also, I met, one of the, as we go down the list here and talk about potential deliverables, one of them is this arts promotion. And I wanted to make sure that we just didn't want to go off and on our own trying to figure out what the arts community would like. So through Cheryl Poirier, who is involved in the art district and I've worked with on a number of different things, she arranged a meeting, which we had this week, and we had the major art organizations, the museum, the association, the academy, and a couple of the other, we had the sculpture garden, and I might have invited some of the galleries. Well, anyway, I presented and I told them basically that, look, if you read these reports, one of the things that jumps out from it is that all three mention the assets of the arts in our community and how best we can leverage them. And we were looking for ways to help promote them, possibly use a branding campaign in the town involving the arts, but we wanted certainly their input and what they thought we should do. So just to save time here, I won't go through the whole meeting, but it ended with, I recommended that they're going to get together and try to come to the board, EDC, with some recommendations, what they would like to see going forward from the town. So that's where that stands. Any questions on that or anything?
Howard, just a comment.
Sure.
The education movement, if you will, of today is starting to recognize beyond STEM, you're seeing a lot of talk about we need more emphasis in education on STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. It's now being spoken as STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And it's a
Yay.
reflection, like that, Edie?
Yeah.
It's a reflection that, engineering or architecture for that matter, these are creative professions. And you have to have people with the ability to visualize and go beyond visualizing to construct, a design. So I've been of a mind for a while that the sort of the dilemma of the Lime Academy might dovetail with an opportunity if that facility might be somehow collaborated with District 18. I reached out to the, I guess it was the executive director of the Lime Academy, when they were going through their serious financial troubles. I never got an email back. I wrote, it was a person that was, I believe the gentleman was.
Frank Duffy?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Here's the good news, Joe. I'm meeting with him on Friday.
Ah,
He was at this meeting and requested a meeting with me. I used to, actually, along with MJ, be involved in the academy. I used to volunteer. I used to do a lot of their event photography, and I worked on events. So had a connection there. He asked me to meet with him and kind of review where their strategy is going. And I understand where you're coming from, Joe. You've mentioned that before. I agree with you. And I think they actually are considering some of the things that you have talked about. But what I will do is I will mention your name and give him your email and make sure that he contacts you so you could do a better job than me describing what you think. But I think they are thinking along some of those lines anyway.
All right.
Okay.
All right, Howard, if you have I think I copied you. If I didn't, I'll resend it to you just so you have it.
Send what?
The email that I sent Mr. Duffy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right.
Great. If you can send me that before Friday, that would be great.
Will do. I will forward that to you so you have it.
And I'll recommend that he talk. I'll give him your email and you guys can get together. Okay.
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 Thank you.
So that's the parts. Let me see. And as I said, I'm going to meet with him on Friday. Over the last couple of months, Edie and I actually made a presentation to the Democratic Town Committee, just updating them what we were doing and letting, getting a little bit, see where they were with some of these things. And we got some good feedback there. I've also had an informal meeting with Dave Kelsey, and I wanted to just, give him an idea where things are going and get a little bit input from his point of view. And he was, I mentioned some of the projects that we're going to talk about shortly, and he was pretty excited about that. And I thought he was in favor. I really pushed for the idea, and he totally agreed with me that, that the town has spent a lot, as I said before, a lot of resources in both money and time, people on getting these 3 advanced CT reports completed. And the community should really accrue some benefit from this. We just don't want to end up with reports. It was really, as we described at the beginning of a process, not the end. So, and we think there should be, some efforts to make sure that these reports wind up with some results at the very end. So I thought that was good. So, we didn't want to go down tracks where we're going to run into potential opposition that would make it more difficult. So I thought all those meetings were very, very good. The last thing on outreach, I just wanted to mention, I don't know if people are aware of this, but reporter Mary Becker. Oh, there's Edie. Mary Beckert from the Day, who covered the Limes and covered a lot of our meetings and wrote a number of articles and is a very good reporter. She has left the Day to pursue a master's in journalism at Columbia. And at this point, as far as I know, the Day has not replaced her with anyone covering the Limes. So that's unfortunate. I hope that they do, because Mary was very good and wrote a number of articles on things that we were involved in. So any questions on any of that? I just wanted to make sure people are aware what was going on, and with those kind of discussions. And like I say, we'll wait to hear from the arts community.
Okay. One item, Howard, in the way of outreach, everybody experienced the the storm and the loss of electricity for a week. I didn't suffer too terribly because I have a whole house generator, but looking at the electric bill, I was not happy that I get no reliability and no compensation for all that diesel fuel I had to burn. So I'm sort of waiting until the election is over, and then I am developing a proposal to municipalize our town, and I'm saying 6 to 8 towns going up the Connecticut River. And my rationale is as follows. We, as a community, only have about 5,000 electric meters. I think the actual number is closer to 5,500, whoopee, not a big number. But if we take all the towns going up to Lyme and across the way to East Haddam, and then, Saybrook, Essex, Deep River, Haddam, and then going the other way, we have this thing called the Connecticut River. And it's a tidal river. It's never going to get any interest from the likes of Goldman Sachs that wants to dump billion-dollar shots of money in renewable energy projects. But if we could put together a project to tap the river's energy, and granted, there's all kinds of regulatory stuff involved in that, but it's got to start somewhere. Part of what I'm doing is the Coast Guard right now, through our research and development arm, is looking at hydrokinetic energy, tapping, river flow, tidal flow. Purely science, it's a science project at this point. So there's nothing to take away saying that, this is going to suddenly happen. But I am, as an engineer, I look at it, the first thing we need to do is establish what's the resource. So we need to put into the river some instruments that are small, something that can sit there and read how much current, in the course of a year, just collect data. And that's one step. The other thing that I look at is, in addition to the river, we probably have a couple of 1,000 acres of rocky land that can't be farmed, that can't be developed, commercially or sensibly. But boy, a lot of it faces south and probably could be turned into solar arrays. So this might sound a little crazy, but hey, I'm an academic now. I retired from my engineering practice. So I'm allowed to do this kind of stuff. So what I'm thinking about is, the first step is to look at, the towns, and basically it would be sort of, whether it's river cog or whatever, we need sort of a consensus among the, the select persons of the towns. Are they interested in something like this? And then the third leg of the stool, so the first thing is, what's the supply energy resource? Can we do small scale wind? Can we do, hydrokinetic in the river? Can we do solar on the Boulder hillsides? And we probably can do a fair amount of energy storage, because we have all these mill ponds all over the place. It's of zero interest to the investment banking community, but from a municipal bonding perspective, I think it's doable, if it all makes engineering sense to do. I'll pull in Edie for the aesthetics side of this. We can't do anything that's ugly, but I'd like to think there's ways that we can, you know, field the solar panels and such. And the other side of the coin, I want to convert all the infrastructure to underground, because this idea that we're going to keep putting the wires back up on the poles every time they fall down, it's about 300% of fair value to put it all back up. And I'm tired of my bill getting annexed to pay for that idiocy. Remember Einstein's definition of insanity? Do the same thing over and over, expect a different result. Furthermore, the big issue that I'm seeing about municipalization, if it can happen, is paying for the assets. If we as towns have the rights to our easements of putting utilities in, if we bury our own utilities, I'm advocating that we obligate, you know, Eversource to remove their system and take it away. I'm not going to pay them for it because it's a stranded asset that has no value. So I've kind of outlined my plan, guys. It's a little out there, but it's something I'm very interested in, and I think it's long overdue.
Good.
Joe, I'd love to talk with you more about this when we're probably not here, but we also have 2 mills right on that feed into the Lieutenant River. So active
We have
mills.
so much, exactly. And the key, Edie, is going to be low impact hydro. You know, today it's being referred to as hydrokinetic or run of the river hydro. But where we have the dams, that's a critical thing for renewable energy.
Sure.
If we can have dams with fish ladders, we probably can do energy storage.
Yep.
And if we can make that whole combination work, it's sort of a model going forward of, if you were starting from scratch, it's the right thing to do, as opposed to the system we have now. So
It'll
take it offline.
probably make us fairly unique as far as EDC issues are concerned with some industries potentially.
I think, Howard, the electric bill that we're paying in town now is going to start taxing people.
Yeah.
And I'm a semi-retired guy. I still have a paycheck, but you know, it's nothing to write home about compared to being in business. But you know, it has me concerned going forward. You know, we're going to keep paying these bills.
So Joe, are you in the stage where you're just sort of putting this to paper right now, or are you talking to anybody?
No, I am strictly right now. This is all conceptual. I'm freely talking about this because I'm hoping that my peers here don't think I'm nuts. And
I think it's great.
I think it's something that I'd like to try, and I think we can recruit talent in the town to help with getting this thing going. You know, because obviously there's a lot of work you got to do to establish the feasibility, but it begins, number one, with, is there interest amongst the towns?
Yeah.
Second is going to be putting in the data collection equipment, which is not big money. There we need to spend some money. I'm actually trying to get the Coast Guard to locate some testing instruments in the Connecticut River in old Lyme waters, because I figured there's not too much of a reach. We can hopefully get our Board of Selectmen and the harbor masters to cooperate with us, that it's not going to interfere with navigation. It's not even going to be hardly visible, and we can start collecting data.
I think you have to be pretty careful where you place it, because the river flow, I mean, depending on where you are in the river, you can experience a broad variety of flow. If it's going upstream, you know, I mean, one thing, it switches direction once a day.
Right.
And second of all, I mean, depending on whether you're in the middle or on the shore, there's a huge difference.
Oh, yes. No, I'm a kayaker, so I know.
Yeah, I happen to like small boats myself.
But actually what is key is the Connecticut River is navigable, but it's only got a narrow channel.
Yeah.
I'm not involved in the channel. I'm looking at all the shallows.
So I think your bonus is that because it's so shallow, I mean, there's a great book on the history of the river.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it hasn't been developed for industry at all. And that's our bonus. That's our ace in the hole, I think.
Candace, if you're interested in this stuff, I haven't got the time now to do the research, but the Army Corps of Engineers, prior to Pearl Harbor, initiated exactly the project I want to do in the Hudson River. Hudson River is the same deal, you know, narrow navigational channel, broad, shallow river. They were ready to start doing hydrokinetic hydro in the Connecticut River, I'm sorry, in the Hudson River, and then Pearl Harbor happened and it all went out the window. It all got abandoned, but a considerable amount of work had been done. So if anybody has the time to research that, by all means, because it's something that I've got to do.
Very good. Interesting, Joe, and I wish you luck. Keep us posted. Obviously, it has implications for the committee. I think I would like to move on since I want to kind of get to the heart of what we want to do. And since we started late, I don't want to keep people too long. You know, the next steps out of the reports, obviously what we remember going back, the committee has two major goals. One, to support existing businesses, and two, to attract new businesses and a smart growth policy that fit the character of the town. And so the next couple of steps would seem to be to, you know, come up with some goals that we would think where we would like to see things go in those two areas, and then have the projects that support that. I'm actually going to suggest that we go out of step here a little bit, and the reason I'm going to do that is, you know, we're about a year out of the SWAT, believe it or not, now.
Wow. Wow.
And I think it's really important to see us kind of work on and get to fruition with some deliverables, so that, as I say, the town and the residents and the businesses benefit from that work. So what I was going to suggest is that I've listed a couple of projects that we've talked about for a long time, and I've picked ones that I think we, you know, are fairly easy to get going and get into and turn them into deliverables. So I'm going to just spend a minute talking about them. And there's three of these things kind of jump right out of the reports. Remember, I think what we're doing is trying to see the reports, just for some MJ's benefit. You know, we really had three different perspectives. We had the resident business survey that gave us what people were thinking, what they wanted. We had the SWATs, which were really more focused on what I'd call stakeholders. So they were the key organizations in town, businesses, nonprofits, clergy, the arts community. You know, we made sure that we had a nice representation from major businesses and organizations. So we got that. And then the third was Advanced CT giving us their expertise. So what jumps out of those, all three of those reports are these, I think. The business community told us that that the town tended to be difficult to do business with. It was hard to figure out how to navigate the regulations and get businesses going and figure out what regulations applied to them. So my suggestion here would be we develop a business resource kit, you know, have it online, as we mentioned before, and it could be used for both existing businesses and new business coming into town. And my recommendation would be we have $7,000 carryover that's been approved by both the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance. And in my memo for that carryover, I mentioned that it would be implementation of the work from these reports. So I think that's enough authority. I think we don't have to go back with very specific how we're going to spend that 7,000. I think we could do it. But I've talked to Advanced CT. They've done this kind of stuff before. And I would recommend that we, you know, engage them while we have that money to create this kit. So that's the first thing. Let me just, I'll get input and let questions and everything. Let me just run through them so you get a clear idea where we're going, and then you can weigh them, which ones you like or don't like or whatever. The second is business spotlight. To me, that's almost like a non-brainer, you know, of and of highlighting businesses in town, giving them some publicity. And it's interesting, some towns, you can do it very simply to get started. If each month, spotlight one, you could put it on a town website, you can have an EDC announcement, you could have a board of selectmen, that kind of thing that's pretty simple to do. Some towns go a lot further. They actually have big events, and they have once a month, they have, someone was telling me at one town, they have a little parade and people have like wine and cheese and, and make it a real event. So I think, obviously we can start out small, and if it's successful, kind of build on that, but it would seem almost a very simple thing to do that gives us some visibility and lets businesses know that we're trying to work on their behalf. The third one is the arts promotion, potential branding. And I would say that's kind of, let's see. I've had that meeting with the arts community. I'm going to talk to the art academy this week too. And let's see what they come up with and let them present something to the committee that we could look at and see if we can develop something along those lines. The one that wasn't in the report, but which we've talked about, and I think it has merit, and is this home business support. And I think, we've had two things happen. One, we recognized before that there are a lot of cottage industries in town. Now with COVID, we're seeing people work from home a lot more. That's probably going to be, I hate to use the hackett phrase, part of the new normal, but it certainly probably will be. And so since we've had those kind of changes going on, it would seem like that would be something that we could do. Now that's not really part of the report, but I think because of the circumstance of what's going on today, that would be one to consider. And then the other thing that's jumped out from the report that's not being worked on, obviously we have Falls Road Committee, so they're doing that. The other major portion of town that people would like to see something done to with is Soundview. And I think what we should recommend there would be that the Board of Selectmen have one of the Board of Selectmen head a Soundview Improvement Committee that's very broad. So you have right now the beach community, they have their group. There is a Soundview Commission, but I would make this broader. I think you need other people from the town and the boards. I think you need the Planning Commission. I think you need zoning, someone from EDC, so that it's just not the beach communities being represented, but the entire town. Certainly they should have a key role in it, but not the only role. And then we would recommend to the Board of Selectmen that they form a Soundview Improvement Committee headed by one of the selectmen to go forward with that. So those are kind of the things I thought we should at least get off the ground. We may not wind up with, we may not complete all of them together, but at least get those off the ground. Some will be easier than others. And I would ask that, members of the commission pick one that they like or two or whatever. And if they could work on it in some way, that would be great, or champion it. That would be great. I will try to do what I can for all of them. Like I say, I think we have the arts promotion underway. I think it would be easy for me to write a memo to the Board of Selectmen making that recommendation for the Soundview Committee. So those kind of easy ones to get going. And we could get Advanced CT, all we have to do is authorize them to go ahead and develop that resource kit. I think they could do some drafts. We would want to input it, make sure that it met the needs of Old Lyme, just not a generic kit. then we could also at some point, I think what we'd have to do for the home business support is kind of look at, talk to some of those people in those businesses and people who are working from home and see what the needs are and develop some support for in that area. So I've just
So I
said a
think
mouthful of
relate,
stuff, and I'll let you guys give me some feedback and see what you think.
related to support for people working from home, I think the sort of cousin to Joe's plan is a plan to try and improve the availability of broadband in town. A lot of people are talking about it. You know, I heard it at the River Cog. People this is definitely an issue. And Greg, who used to be on this commission, he was a big proponent of that as well.
Right. Okay.
Candace, you read my mind, because part of my program is to put all the electric power underground and with it fiber optic. All right. And if you have those two things, you don't need anything else. I mean, the future will behold new things, I'm sure. I am hoping that the proliferation of the 5G wireless technology measures up to what's being promoted. But I'll tell you this, you know, an awful lot of engineers are dumping a lot of money into anything to do with 5G, you know, in terms of investing their own personal funds. But yeah, what we have now is atrocious. Also, if you think that I have heartburn about, you know, EverSource, I hate Comcast. I have a visceral hatred of them. They are an unregulated, and that's the whole key. The state-regulated monopoly system. The word that's missing is regulated. There is no regulation. You know, if you buy electricity, there's a rate that you pay. If you buy Comcast, they tell you, oh, for 6 months, special offer. No, I want to know what happens after 6 months. You know, and if you go to the PURA website, you know, the Public Utility Regulatory Authority, they send you with a link to Comcast. That's how well it's regulated. So I agree. I think that, you know, the communications infrastructure and the electric infrastructure needs to be municipalized, because, you know, I'm a capitalist. I got no problem with people making money, but I don't want people making money off of me when I have only one option. You know, that's like the Teddy Roosevelt days.
Right.
So anyway, I've got that in there.
Well, Dave has reported that Frontier is equally.
Equally is understatement. It's horrible. It's horrible as well. And I can't even get Comcast where I'm at. So yeah, something that needs.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, great. What I suggest we do, let's just go back one at a time here, and does anyone else have anything else? I did a lot of talking. Anyone else have any feedback on these, or think they're good or bad or indifferent or what?
I'll volunteer. How's this for a start? I'll volunteer for the arts promotion in the way of trying to effect a collaboration between District 18 and the Lime Academy facilities.
Okay.
And I'm looking at it more from the viewpoint of somebody who's interested in this STEAM initiative, because I feel that, you know, there's something definite that can come of that.
Okay. Well, I'll try to, when I have my meeting on Friday, I'll mention that and connect you guys, and you can start on that.
So basically, we're looking for people to volunteer to do one of the several things you've listed, right, Howard? That's our kind of next steps we need to do.
It's MJ. May I ask a question?
Sure.
Howard, can you elaborate on the business resource kit, and so I can understand why Advanced CT is our best resource to pull it together? I understand it, other than just an assembly of known parts.
Right. Well, like I say, if you look at the reports that
I've read them all very thoroughly, honestly,
right.
and I know what the issues are.
What jumped out from the business side was that businesses felt that the town could be easier to do business with, and they had a lot of difficulty figuring out where they get approvals, what the regulations are, how they navigate the process.
I agree 100%. I guess my question isn't what the issues are, but how the need to assemble them by advanced CT, just because maybe we don't have the manpower and woman power, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Sure.
That's one reason, and a good one, but I think a better reason is that they've done this before. I've talked to them. This is something that they work with 80 municipalities. They're involved in, understanding regulations from the various communities and the state. So I think they're in a really unique position to pull that all together. Now, if someone here wants,
of one?
pardon me?
Can we see a sample of one that they've done for a similar type town, or just an abstract of it, just to get?
No, I did not. I just, conversations about.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, just ask.
But if you go to their website, there are multiple towns they've been working on. When it was CERC, which is
Right.
previous name.
Yep.
They've done stuff all over Connecticut and are very well versed with practically every town in the area. So you can certainly get some good examples right on their website.
Good, thank you, because I'd like to see a deliverable just to see what they're doing.
I mean, if someone wants to jump up and take on that project.
Oh, God, no.
I
I would do it for $7,000 though, Howard.
Pardon me?
I would do it for 7 Gs.
So I really do take a look at them.
Okay, great.
I will, let's do this. Let's go forward in getting a specific proposal from them.
Okay.
And MJ, if you would like, I will arrange a call with them where we could walk through what they can do for us very specifically, and so that they can do a good job of putting that together, and you can be on that call with me if you would like.
Well, I trust the committee to understand it better than I do at this point, because I'm so new.
Well, I don't think, we
I
haven't.
just need to look at
No
what
one's
you're.
done it before anyway, so
Right.
you're as good as, as much as anyone else. So
Right.
either if you'd like, I'll let you know when.
Okay.
That, and if you would like to sit in, fine.
Sure.
But I will.
Fair enough.
I would like to just, have a proposal. Let's vote on that. That we at least move forward, getting a very specific recommendation from them that we could vote on next month. Because I'd like to get these things underway. Because like I say, we're a year out from the SWAT, and people have not accrued any benefit from anything we've done except have these really valuable reports, but they're still just reports. They're not deliverables.
Well, I'd like to work on the business spotlight piece.
Great.
I'm a good cheerleader.
Okay. Why don't
So
you?
I'll volunteer to help with that. I don't want to be a solo artist, though.
Yeah. And if you need
So
me,
MJ, I'd be happy to work with you on that.
Who's
This
that?
is Candace.
Okay, sure.
MJ, I can't do a whole lot with that, but I can give you a lot of good ideas, I think of, for example, I just talked to Don Bureau. I don't know if you guys know Don. He runs the Sugar House in Old Lyme.
Yep.
Well, Don is going gangbusters with his kettle corn. I don't know if everybody's locked in their houses and all eating snack food or whatever.
Right.
But I'm thinking like foodstuffs in Old Lyme. Don Bureau's kettle corn, 4 Mile River Farm. Like we can almost do like a highlight of some of these local merchants and what they do.
Yep.
Right. I think I have a good sense of a lot of them, because there's also the salsa guy up from Sill Lane. I don't know whether he's still distributing, but he was in Whole Foods, for example.
Right.
So, yeah, okay. Candace and I will talk about that.
Yeah, I think that's one. Another one I would just throw out is Todd and Becky Macknick that operate their horse farm.
Yep.
don't know what other horse farms there are, but, just another, and these are local people that have businesses that are contributing and employing people. And, I think that there's a lot. I'll come up with other ideas and I'll feed them to you. All right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, great. Appreciate that. All right, so I think we got a couple of these covered.
What are the other sections, Howard, that we need to
So we
get?
have, let's deal with sound view improvement. What did you think of my proposal to have this improvement committee be a broad community committee that be chaired by someone on the Board of Selectmen as a recommendation?
Honestly, have you talked to Frank Pappalardo, who's the chairman of the beach?
No, not
You
yet.
would have to talk to him, but the other person to talk to is Mary Jo Nozel, because she has really led a lot of the efforts to improve the sidewalks and do a whole bunch of stuff on the, so I think if somebody from the Board of Selectmen were going to be a representative on that, it would probably be Mary Jo.
Right. Well, I know she and Frank work well together.
Yep.
I just wonder if they have so much on their plate right now. Everybody,
Right.
from everything I hear, it's as soon as the sewers get in, well, that's not good enough. We need to try to formulate at least I would imagine, a broad picture of some ideas, some outline. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm just throwing out Frank's name because I know he knows the streets inside out.
Okay, I think what I'll do, I think that's a very good recommendation. Why don't I, before we go forward, talk to Mary Jo and talk to Frank.
Yep.
Kind of float this idea, but I just wanted to see if people thought, am I, is this feasible or something that people really think this is off the wall and
I
crazy?
think it's a good idea. I think it's a good compliment to Halls Road. I can't take on any more major committee work because I'm spread too thin. I'd love to help, but
My
I can't.
thought was,
Maybe down the road, if it comes up later, I could help out with it then.
Sure. My thought, though, was that I understand that Frank and the beach communities and their associations need to play a big role, obviously. That's where it is.
Yeah.
But in order to get the support, it needs to be broader. You need to bring in planning. You need to bring in zoning. It has to be a community project, not just the beach community or the rest of the community telling what the beach community to do. So I think it needs to
Right.
be broad.
Howard, I will tell you that you are 100% on target. I'm
It's the
guessing.
first time anyone's ever told me that.
No, you're 100% on target. I fear to think of how long it was, but I've been in town for 35 years. It was probably 25 or 20 years ago that I led the Soundview Revitalization Task Force, and I was put on that by the Board of Select Persons.
Oh.
And Frank Pappalardo, basically Frank took the momentum and then really carried the ball forward. But, I was not a Soundview person, but I will tell you my first experience with Soundview was my currently 39-year-old daughter was a 4-year-old on the back of my bicycle. And I rode down to Soundview, and back then they had a topless bar, which I was blown away. I had no idea. I was, relatively new to Old Lyme. And, my daughter saw all this commotion and noise and, "Daddy, what's this?" And I said, "Honey, it's Dodge City." And some lady
Without the clothes.
some lady started yelling at me, and I said to her, "Hey lady, why did you let your neighborhood turn into this circus?" And then I kind of started getting interested that somebody's got to do something to fix this. So
Okay, so good. So
Can I ask a question of you, Joe? Do other beach communities feel shortchanged because Soundview has such a big main drag? Because they all operate independently.
I don't think they feel, I think, happy that they don't get invaded by the general unorganized public, which is what Soundview gets invaded by. So, the big challenge with Soundview is trying to transform it from a pump lots of liquor in the summer, make a buck and
Right.
hold it up. I think the key to Sound View is going to be year-round presence of a good, wholesome presence. And that's starting to happen. Speaking my own opinion, I guess we got to be careful here. I'm not speaking as a commissioner, but I feel like without some kind of, residential housing presence there, you're never going to have critical mass to sustain year-round business.
Well, my question is then, and maybe Edie knows something I don't know, but it seems to me that that whole swath of land on 156
Mhm.
should be dealt with, because it's kind of like build it and they will come.
Yeah.
There should be some commerce there, so people don't have to schlep all the way into Halls Road for things.
So you're talking about the north side of 156, like Cherry
Yes.
Stones and the gas station and all
Oh,
that?
God, yes, all
Yeah.
of that.
Okay.
Now, have you
Well,
addressed that at all? Have you
I think we
thrown
should,
any ideas out?
I think that's a good point, and we should include that when we say Sound View,
Okay,
include 156 in that, yes.
But I think the hope is to not have, a Route 1 strip center scene going on 156. We don't want to see, one little shop after another little, the hope is to keep it as a village or some kind of condensed center for Soundview. And I think housing and some complexes that allow for cluster housing, things like that along 156 make more sense than trying to start building more
right, but they
sprawl.
still need services. So would you have a little deli there, or a little pharmacy there, or a little bank there, or, some small saddle?
Yeah, maybe right at the top of the Soundview section. Is that what you're thinking of?
I'm talking on 156, that whole swath from the Gulf Station on as far as we could go.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to get looked at, and that's why we do
Right.
need a committee that would do that kind of work.
Right. I'd be
Um,
interested in that side of it, but just,
Mhm. I think it sounds like it's something that, as I heard, they're pretty swamped with their sewer systems and all of that right now. And
They are.
maybe, maybe by the time I come out of the weeds in some of the projects I'm working on, maybe it will also be a little more resolved, and we could get that energy back to paying
Mhm.
attention to how to make, the beach communities served with what they need, and also not, I mean, the tricky part is not oversaturating with too much retail, obviously. And I know I've heard of people talking about health centers, some places for medical offices
Right.
or something, but it really needs to be looked at, it really needs to be studied and understood what it could sustain.
Do you think my idea is as merit of Edie to, it just seems to me that we have to have a broad, but usually what you have is, it just offhand, it just seems that you have the beach community on one side working and the rest of the community not, and then they get at odds, and you need them all on the table together, and they have to all be in
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's the mission of EDC is
planning, you
to,
need zoning.
combine things.
You need the whole works, yeah.
And especially if we're seeing, an uptick of more full-time residents in the beach area, that's going to be all the more reason to get some real consistency and make sure that it feels like it belongs to Old Lyme and is not like,
Right.
I mean, in my childhood, Soundview was a seedy area nobody wanted to go to, so we need to make sure that that can grow beyond there. It's
Edie,
not.
the prevailing philosophy of the town was to ignore it and hope it would dry up and blow away, and that.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
well, that's sad. I grew up in a town like this, and we never felt that way about our beaches, but
Mhm.
I'm only a newcomer.
It's a weird thing that here we are on the shoreline, and there's only 2 town beaches that you have to have a sticker for. So there's nowhere to go to the beach if you're from out of town without having a sticker or a private residence to get there. So it's kind of you're better off going for a walk in the woods than you are going to the beaches around here.
But that's the purview of Park and Rec. That's how they believe it should be, is that they don't want
Yeah.
people being able to use our beaches for free. I mean, I've promoted the idea of making Haynes Park without a sticker, because hardly anybody uses it. It's really just, it's very different from the shoreline beaches in that it's really just townspeople.
Yeah.
That's a topic for another day.
When my kids were young, we went to Haynes Park all the time, and because the lake was not, poisoned by the geese or whatever, and that's what kind of put the kibosh on going there. The water quality.
Yeah, the geese are an issue.
But we used to go there all the time. My daughters learned how to swim in that Rogers Lake.
Okay, well, let's move on. The one we didn't talk a lot about was the home business support, but one of the things we had discussed previously is home-based businesses and people working from home might need a resource center, for instance, where they can go, have administrative support, mail packages, receive packages, meet a client, hold a conference, get together. That kind of thing is, might be very valuable. And when I meet with the Academy, I'm going to raise that issue because they have all this potential space they're looking to use, and maybe that's one of the ways they can utilize that and tie into what we've been thinking.
Howard, the idea, Howard, to like sort of connect with one of these national providers, like maybe not WeWork in particular, but something along those lines, so that bring them in here and or talk to them about how they package something like this.
Yeah. So you mean one of those companies that does this kind of thing?
Like WeWork, yeah, like one of those, yeah.
Would you think that would be worthwhile, talking to someone like that, or
I mean, I'm happy to take point in just making a couple of phone calls and find out, how their model works and how they enter communities like, like this, and what it looks like.
My concern.
I'll just, when I meet with the Academy, just kind of mention it and see if they have any interest, and we can go from there.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Also, don't ignore that, next to the, I'll call it the A&P liquor store, because that's what it always was. But the little office supply guy that's there, there's a kernel of what could be, because I agree with Howard. I started off as a sole proprietor. My support was Saybrook Office Supply, because if you couldn't afford a high volume copying machine, if you didn't have binding capability, nowadays you can go to a Staples, I guess, in Saybrook and get that same deal. But the fundamental, functionality of being able to, nowadays things are much more electronic, but there's still a need for meeting spaces, maybe for greater computer power, maybe for like IT support techs.
Right, yeah.
I think right now that's probably the biggest thing for a sole proprietor is if the damn computer won't work, you're done, so.
Plus, you think about it, a lot of these cottage industries in towns are art-based. They're crafts and art, and they could rent out studios and, that kind of thing, build upon that. So, all right, let's, I know we started late. I don't want to keep people too long. I think we're off to a really good start here. I appreciate people's input. Let's just get these updates, and then we could adjourn. Edie, I'm sorry, go ahead.
One quick thing, Howard. I forwarded you the email that I sent to Frank Duffy exactly 1 year ago. You got it?
I'll get back. I'll make sure he sees it and talk.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Thank
on
you.
my agenda. Edie, could you please update us on
The Halls Road,
quickly?
we had presentations by our three folks that were proposing to help us do the Halls Road plan last month, and we're actually meeting tomorrow to make a final decision and recommend a person to, affirm to the Board of Selectmen, and from there they'll take that, and we do have funding for this, so we should be able to get this thing underway. And start the planning process for this. It will include planning for, where am I? Planning for the streetscape and for mixed use community, and also the design guidelines and rezoning piece that our zoning folks are all volunteer, so they're not going to be writing any new zoning code for the town. So that will be part of the Halls Road plan. So that's what I got.
Great. Any questions, anyone?
What's the time frame on all these components? A year, 6 months, 3 months? Like,
Where I think that there's a good likelihood by January, February, the planning would be completed and we would be putting out requests for proposals for final engineering for streetscape.
thank you.
Okay, Barbara is not here to report on the update on the POC, but I attended one of their workshops and I was impressed what planning was doing. I think they were trying to obtain significant input from the other boards and commissions. They were, I just thought they were listening. They were trying to make sure that the POC was brought up to date from 10 years ago and make sure the language was correct, and they're trying to deal with some of the issues. So I felt pretty good about what they were doing. Has anyone sat in the Rivercog POC regional meeting at all to update us, or nobody?
Oh, we're losing our electricity, for Christ's sake.
They heard
It's
Joe.
windy out there.
They got mad at Joe. That's it. We're being punished.
Mine just blinked too.
Is that stuff behind you?
Sorry. Well, I think Dave and I both attended the regional Rivercog meeting, but that was quite a while ago. I don't know.
I think we talked about it.
We
then,
did
right?
talk about it then. I don't know if there's been any action since then.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
No.
they're supposed to actually come to each town and meet with people to.
Well, they did do that, right?
Similar what the planning is doing here with getting input from the different boards and commissions. I think they're trying to get input from the different towns, and I don't know where that's.
Yeah, they did do that here.
They did it.
Yeah, they did.
There was a big meeting. There must have been 30 people on.
I know there was one. Was that for Old Lyme though? I attended the original one meeting where.
Yeah, that was 100 people for everybody. There was an Old Lyme. Well, I think they did Old Lyme and Lyme together, right, Candace? If I remember.
I think so. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was a smaller group. I actually got cut off that call, once again, electricity issues. So I didn't get through the whole thing. But it was more receiving input than it was them reproducing the presentation that they gave to the larger group. So it was more like where are your priorities and what types of things do you think the community needs, and how can we how can Rivercog be of assistance, that kind of thing. So but again, I got cut off not too long into it, so I don't have too much substantive input as to what happened.
So I think one of the major themes was the Lyme people being concerned about maintaining the pastoral nature of their community, and particularly with regards to affordable housing, they were pretty opposed to any idea of having affordable housing up there.
Typical.
Opposed to having what? I'm sorry, Candace, affordable housing.
In Lyme.
Oh.
So, I mean,
Okay.
that was the first I'd heard of that sentiment from our northern neighbors, but there it is.
All right, the last thing is real estate update. And this is something we used to do on the EDC. just do a very brief update on what was going on with housing. John sent me something that he picked off Zillow that was
John
from
who?
September. And he indicated, that report indicated that the typical housing value in Old Lyme is 380,860, and that was an increase of 3.9 in 1 year. And there were 98 homes for sale and 20 recently sold.
I chime in?
And that's what I was going to ask you to chime in.
I pulled a report just before we started. Since January, there have been 36 closed properties in Old Lyme. About a half a dozen were before COVID, but the median price on all of those was $259,000, I'm rounding.
Okay.
Closed properties. Deposit properties currently, which means they will close eventually. There are 21, and the median went up to 399, but that includes 8 properties over 500,000, which are direct waterfront. Smith's Neck, West End Drive, these are like $1 million properties. There are also 13 contracts pending that haven't gotten through all their contingencies. Just under 300 is the median price. So I did another report too, which confirms pretty much what you just said, Howard, about the year-over-year increase in prices. The biggest increase came on the very high end, which we know is kind of an outlier because people with that kind of dough are always going to have that. On the inside, anything under 500, the softest part was the 4 to 550 range in terms of price increase and numbers of transactions. The biggest piece is under 300, 350, where prices are rising and there are the most sales. So you need about 75,000 in gross income to afford a $300,000 house in Old Lyme. And that, if my recollection is right, that's about the average that was given to us when Hope came through with their affordable plan. So everything's kind of in line. It's just activity is picked up. And lastly, not all of these buyers are from COVID saturated areas. For the most part, in all honesty, this is normal activity. People moving in and out of state, within the region, for all the reasons they always ever have. They're retiring, they're coming here to retire, they're retiring, they're leaving. There are professionals coming in for job transfers. So this far out of the city, we've seen a much less impact on the, due to COVID in the increases.
Okay, interesting.
And but there's still a lot to close because as a realtor, we're all front loading everything. So that's why these things are trickling through now.
Right. Okay, would you mind if you would just, at our meetings, just do a little update for us?
Yes, and I can make it a lot more succinct. I just did it.
Yeah, that's fine. You're just great.
Okay.
What you did is terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Very good. Again, I apologize for the issues we had with getting you all here, but it worked out. I think we got a lot done. Appreciate it. Anything else? Anyone have anything else to add, bring up? Nope.
Thanks for having me.
Someone want to make a, oh God, MJ, you do?
Thanks for having me. I said.
Second.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Thank
Great.
you all.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Everybody.
Howard. Good
Bye.
night.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right.